What up, Wizards? It's Dev from the place. We are live with the squad in the place, ladies and gentlemen. You should see them. You should see them just off to my right over here, all having fun, drinking juice boxes, cheering. You know, we are going to look at Thursday's Avatar The Last Airbender previews. There's a fair amount of drafty stuff today, but there's some interesting gems in there from time to time, especially a couple of commons that I'm really into. And we'll finish off the video with some cards I like too. So hope you guys are ready, chat. Hope you guys are ready. Oh, Christmas 666 in the house. Always good to have Christmas here. Christmas coming early. But let's get into it and see what the first couple of cards of the day are. They are, of course, the most normal cards of the day. Let's see what they are. We got Deadly Precision and Lost Days over here. Now let me get into a better spot. I think that's a pretty good spot right there. We've got Lost Days first. 5 mana, 4 and a blue for an instant speed lesson. There's Momo. The owner of target creature or enchantment puts it into their library second from the top or on the bottom. You create a clue token. So not horrible value, I guess, but it is 5 mana for this effect, which is too much. So maybe some removal in limited, but it's 5 mana, dog. It's 5 freaking mana. Deadly Precision is a single black mana for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast the spell, pay 4 mana or sacrifice an artifact or creature. Destroy target creature. Not bad. Really not terrible. Gives you a lot of options on your kind of Bone Splinters effect. You know, you can pay the extra mana a la maybe Eaten Alive, I think is a good version of that. And then sacrifice a creature. Again, that's just Bone Splinters, but also second artifact. Seen a couple of cards like this so far, but I don't know that we've really seen one that gives us this much, like, this spread of options, you know? So pretty okay. pretty all right. It might show up in an Aristocrats deck here and there, but, you know, it's worth noting, too, that we have a few pieces like this already, and Aristocrats typically doesn't play them already, even though Aristocrats pops up from time to time. So, I don't know. Might be okay, but next is Boomy Bash and Compassionate Healer. Again, pretty normal cards. Bash is 4 mana, 3 and a red for a sorcery. Choose one. Boomy Bash deals damage equal to the number of lands you control to target creature, or destroy target land, creature, or non-basic land. So I wish it was just destroy target land at this point. It's 4 mana. It's 4 mana, but you still should not want for targets in that realm if you really want to blow a land up. But I think really the removal mode is the cool part of this. In a ramp deck or just a deck that's ramping a good number of lands, then suddenly this is a red removal spell that can kill just about anything. And that is not something you see every day, but 4 mana is way too high of a rate. And why is it a sorcery? So overall, I got to give this like a 3. I'm just going to rate the card. It's just not... It's like a 2.5, really. It's not very good. So we'll move on to Compassionate Healer here. 2 mana, 1 and a white for a 2/2 human cleric ally. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you gain 1 life and you scry 1. So again, normal, but not embarrassing to play in limited, especially when you're looking for a good number of allies. Right? And this is a 2 mana 2/2 that actually does some stuff. Maybe there's some life gain triggers that happen. Fixing your next draw is fine, and you're like your kind of limited aggro deck. So even though this card is normal, it's the first one I would almost always for sure play. You know, like just as a 23rd card or a 16th creature, trying to fill your pre-release deck out. This is probably fine for the most part. Next is Fire Nation Warship and Tundra Tank. Getting into some vehicles here. Warship is 3 mana for a 4/4 vehicle with reach, and it crews for 2. When it dies, you get a clue token. So a couple of cluey things so far in this video, because they're, you know, very, very tertiary theme in this set. 3 mana 4/4 is fine. I do like the fact that it has reach, and there's a number of things in the set that can crew it. When it does finally die, it pays you back a card, and that ain't too bad. So again, I think this is better than it might look in limited, but I'm not going to rush to grab copies of this card, honestly. Same thing's true of Tundra Tank, even though I kind of like it. Tundra Tank. It sounds strong. 3 mana, 2 and a black for a 4/4 vehicle with crew 1. Okay. It has firebending 1, and when it enters, a creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. This is the better card. For sure. You know? Like 3 mana 4/4, crews for only 1, so just about anything can crew it. It just happens to have firebending on top of that, and you even get a protection spell, kind of. You know, there's a number of things in this set that'll allow you to cast artifacts, or in some cases allies, with flash. And this would be really good with all of those. So keep in mind, those effects totally do exist. Crazy Prometheus. Crazy Prometheus, thank you for your resub. Appreciate you. But yeah, again, just on rate, a 3-mana 4/4 with the lowest, conceivable crew cost. I guess it could crew for 0, but, crew 1 is really, really low. Is already okay. And even at sorcery speed, I think the Indestructible might be all right if you're just trying to like swing in with something big. You want to make sure it sticks around. So I don't know. Altogether, I like this package, and I'd probably play it in my pre-release deck. Likely, again, I think it's pretty strong, all things considered. Next is Fancy Footwork and Earth Rumble Wrestlers. Now, Footwork is 3 mana, 2 and a white for an instant speed lesson. Untap up to 1 or 2 target, or untap 1 or 2 target creatures. They each get +2/+2 until end of turn. And then Earth Rumble Wrestlers, just get past Footwork, right? This is a normal combat trick, but I think in the right situation at pre-release, this will just absolutely blow people out. So it may be better than it might look at first glance. 3 mana is more than you really want to spend for most combat tricks, but this will help you get in extra damage. This will help you win on blocks and stuff. This will help make sure your creatures don't die. It'll surprise block because you get to untap the creatures. The card is usable in a number of ways, and I imagine that once you do get into the trenches in pre-release, this will absolutely blow people out if they make the wrong attack or if they misjudge blocks, on your guys or whatever. Suddenly I think this could really do some work. And it happens to be a lesson too. So there's a number of things that care about lessons being your graveyard or proc when you cast a lesson or whatever it is. So I like the extra value on that, but normally I wouldn't tell you to play a 3-mana combat trick. This one, on the other hand, I think forces in 4 extra damage. That can end games, right? Particularly good with trample creatures, particularly good when you're blocking. So it protects you from crackback. It's one of those tricks that allows you to get in with more guys, knowing that you have access to this trick, whether they block weird or you got to get on blocks when they go. So I don't know. I think this is a better card than it may appear. Let me just throw that out there. But Earth Rumble Wrestlers over here, 4 mana, 3, and then a Hybrid Gruul for a 3/4 human warrior performer with reach. Somebody in chat has said, says the sneaky reach, and yeah, I think that it kind of does. The NRG series has pointed out the sneaky hidden reach on this. On Arena, at least, it'll have the big bow and arrow. It's really hard to miss reach on Arena. But this 4 mana 3/4 reach says this creature gets +1/+0 and has trample as long as you control a land creature or a land entered the battlefield under your control this turn. So sneaky landfall as well. Landfall +1/+0 trample to Leoti. So interesting card in some ways, but also kind of off rate. We've seen a number of 4 mana 4/4s in this limited environment at lower rarities. In the last few sets, it's really not uncommon to see 4 mana 4/4s at all. And so having to work for our 4 mana 4/4 is kind of a feels bad, but I still think this is a creature you'll play from time to time, right? Next, we get into slightly better stuff. Those first 8 cards were I see people in chat too, like, did I miss it? Did I miss the good stuff? No, you have not missed the good stuff. We're starting to get into it now. Glider Staff, an Invasion Submersible. Now, you're gonna make a submersible card? It's only been like a year, dog. Still, I can't think about it without. Glider Staff is 3 mana, 2 and a white for an artifact. It's an equipment with equip 2. When this equipment enters, airbend up to 1 target creature. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has flying, and you can equip this for 2 mana. So a total of 5 mana to give a creature +1/+1 and flying is not great. But what this really is a removal spell. Kind of a removal spell when you really get down to it. Also like that you can maybe blink it or put it back in your hand and play it again, right, and get this same ETB trigger. Your opponent doesn't have to pay full price for the creature if they want it back. It's just 2 mana, but it's still really good tempo, if nothing else. And I think 3 mana might price it out of standard, especially when, you'd probably rather just play like an Oblivion Ring effect and just be done with it, right? But I don't know. There's something about it that I do like. If you give even a relatively small creature, like a 2/2, +1/+1 and flying, they become a actual, like, annoying threat. And meanwhile, you have mana tied up and casting your thing. So probably pretty annoying. Not necessarily standard playable, but I do think this is something that I'm going to be looking for in limited because flying's a good ability, making my creatures larger is a good ability, messing with my opponent's tempo and timing and making them recast. Okay, it's all good. The card's just really not bad on rate. in limited at least. Invasion Submersible is our Mana War variant for the set. This is 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a 0/0 vehicle. When it enters, return up to one other target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. And you can exhaust this. We're bringing back exhaust. Exhaust combined with Waterbend 3. This vehicle becomes an artifact creature. Put 3 +1/+1 counters on it. So a 3 mana, 3/3 Mana War, like kind of a little bit. You have to tap down creatures or artifacts. Note, yeah, you can tap this down to become a creature. So that's kind of neat, I guess. This technically only is Waterbend 2 if you want to tap it down to become a creature. But altogether, an interesting design on our Mana War for the set, and these tend to be very good and limited as well. That's where Mana War still shines. Probably not going to see it in standard anytime soon, but again, wreck your opponent's tempo just a little bit, and I don't think it's too hard to get this water bent. Yeah, there's no other way to crew this whatsoever, unless you have like a card that turns all your vehicles into artifact creatures. But yeah, fun way to crew it, honestly, and I don't think it's too difficult to crew it either, so kind of like it, But next is Forecasting Fortune Teller, as well as Octopus Form. Now, Forecasting Fortune Teller is kind of neat. It's 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a 1/3 Human Advisor ally. When it enters, you get a clue token. That's it. Thraben Inspector, Novice Inspector, but it costs 2 mana. So it's not as good as those guys, but it's still a blue creature with, a halfway decent ETB trigger. If you care about artifacts, if you care about clues specifically, obviously, if you want to draw cards, why not? You now get that ability in mono blue. I don't think this is pauper playable, but it is nice, again, to have the Thraben Inspector in mono blue or blue red or Grixis or, Affinity, but you're not playing it in Affinity. Just another, deck that cares about artifacts. And so many pauper decks do care about artifacts that I could see this seeing some play because it gives you like the best token artifact. So just a speculation, but ultimately, I don't know that it really ends up seeing play there. But one way or the other, when you see a Thraben Inspector, even if it costs double what a Thraben Inspector costs, you definitely have to point it out. It's not a bad Magic card. But W. Ant Woo, I really have to watch this show. Apparently, I'm mispronouncing everyone's names. Like, everyone is so mad at me for saying Toph over and over. Apparently, it's Toph. Apparently, this character's name is Toph. And I need to remember that, or I will be hunted. From what I can gather. Anyway, Octopus Form is a single blue mana for an instant speed lesson. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains hexproof until end of turn. Untap it. So kind of a shore up. Basically a shore up. Yeah, oh my, that's pretty good. That's not bad, We're so used to seeing lessons and then being like, lessons are always bad. Oh, that explains why this card's bad. It's a lesson. That's why it costs 1.5 mana more than it should cost. Every time. And this set is not screwing around when it comes to lessons. This is how much this card should cost. A single blue mana for this effect has always been okay and even playable, depending on the environment, what decks we have, open to us. So wouldn't be surprised if some version of this did see play. But again, we have Shore Up, we have Magical Damper. And so it's not uncommon to see a card like this anymore. So it's not as noteworthy as it once would have been. And if you are going to play a card like it, maybe you play Damper instead. Maybe you play Shore Up instead. But nice to have this. Anybody else an enjoyer of this flavor text? Yeah, a skilled waterbender is always well armed. It's pretty. They got jokes. Doing my job for me, but ultimately, I might play this over Magic Damper and over Shore Up because I think it's cooler. I think just Octopus Form is a cooler concept, especially for like a magical spell. I think that some people might be able to argue that Magic Damper is the most generically Magic the Gathering of all of them, and that's you play that one, right? But no, if I were a powerful wizard, then my protection spell would absolutely be Octopus Form. So, yes, absolutely. Yeah, Riz factor. There's a Riz factor to it, absolutely. And W Katara, yep. We got to move on though to better cards. Hopefully, we're trying to step it up in playability every time we go to a new slide here. We got True Ancestry and one of my favorite commons of the day, Origin of Metal Bending. Now, True Ancestry, it's 2 mana, 1 and a green for a lesson. It's a sorcery. Return up to 1 target permanent card from your yard to your hand and create a clue token. So it's Nature's Spiral. It is exactly the card Nature's Spiral, but it is strictly better. I get to say the thing. Said the thing. I'll get to say it on the next card too. But not only is it strictly better because it has an extra card type that Nature Spiral doesn't have, and you can do all kinds of stuff with that, but it also just makes a clue to draw a card. You have to pay extra mana or whatever, but create a clue may as well just say, like, draw a card a turn or two from now, you know? And I think that Nature Spiral that draws a card is really good. Like, Nature Spiral that puts an artifact on the table, it's crazy. Not to say that Nature Spiral is like the most powerful card in the world, and it definitely sees standard play, but an upgrade this strict on a card that was already, like, you can make a case for it, I think is pretty all right, dog. Worth talking about, if nothing else. You know, I like that a lot. Yeah, he said the thing. There it is. But yeah, I think this is a playable, like, you know, like a budget commander card in the right deck where it's mostly permanents anyway that you're getting back. Like, in some cases, depending on your build, this is like better than Regrowth. Like, that's saying something. You know, so good card here. I think this is our first like straight up good Magic card. But just like there's a card that's like Shore Up, and there's a card that's like Nature Spiral, there's a card that's like Naturalize. Just better. Origin of Metal Bending is 2 mana. Whoops. Origin of Metal Bending is 1 and a green. You didn't see those 2 lands. For an instant speed lesson, choose one. Either destroy target artifact or enchantment. All right. Or put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control, and it gains indestructible until end of turn. What are you talking about? What are you doing? So you get a Naturalize that is also just a protection spell, just a Snakeskin Veil. You know, if you're going to staple something to literally disenchant, literally Naturalize, usually it's not that much extra value. You know, like we got the thing that like, oh, it's Naturalize, but it also takes a card out of a graveyard if you'd rather it do that. Man, that's strictly better, Naturalize. This is crazy. Like, again, you get the extra card type, which is not nothing. That's worth like a quarter of a mana. You know what I mean? Something like, give or take. It's not worth nothing that this is a lesson. But apart from that, it's just Naturalize that is never going to be dead. This card will literally never, ever be dead. You know, if they don't have a bunch of artifacts or enchantments for this to actually target, then they probably have a bunch of removal spells target your stuff. So it's crazy. Just an insane looking Magic card to me. Strict upgrade on Naturalize doesn't make it good, but it is. Yeah, wow, okay, yeah, dude. This, whoo, buddy, like it's pretty good, yeah. Lessons of subtype, not a lot of things care about subtypes in the set. Well, I mean, just yet. Yeah, so far, this set has included, I think it's like 4 cards that we've seen so far that care about the lesson subtype specifically, and we're about to go back to Strixhaven. So I'm thinking that stuff will probably care about lessons there too. But yeah, I love this card, and it's probably my favorite common of the day. Well, we'll move on to a couple of good looking lands here. Secret Tunnel and White Lotus Lookout. Now, Secret Tunnel is our first rare of the day, and I think it might be one of our only rares of the day. This is a cave. This is a land that is also a cave. Good to see some cave support. This land, listen to this line of text. Listen to this. There is no way, naturally at least, of making this land into a creature. Obviously, you're supposed to earthbend it, is what they want you to do. But I love that there is no on-card way of making this land a creature. And yet, this land can't be blocked. Never will that line of text probably appear on a card again, you know, and it never has before. Tap it for a colorless mana, and it comes into play untapped, by the way. An untapped cave taps for colorless. Pay 4, tap it, 2 target creatures you control that share a creature type. Can't be blocked this turn. So we get a Rogue's Passage that works on 2 guys. That's disgusting. That's a really, really good land. And if you do put counters on it or animate it in some other way, you know, then suddenly it's unblockable too. So, just crazy. There are going to be decks that don't even really care about creature type. They just happen to like, oh, these 2 guys are human, you know, and you just go, just get in. That's a good land right there, brother or sister, that I imagine is going to pop up in a bunch of commander decks, especially ones that do care about creature type. But again, I think that like there's so many commander decks that are like, oh, I happen to have like 5 demons in my deck. You know, I'm not a demons deck, but I just have those in there. You know, they could probably do something with this. So obviously Changelings works really well with Changelings. which will matter shortly when the next set comes out. So just a banger of a land, dude. Give me a plate full of that and mashed potatoes. You know what I mean? That looks good. You have to target 2, though. Yeah, you can't send 1 guy through. You can't do that. And if you have 2 guys that don't share a type, then this is land still taps for mana, I guess. There's that. But yeah, dude, I love this. I love this. Like so much good design, cool line of text to put on a Magic card, you know? It's got Gavin written all over it. But next is White Lotus Hideout. Stupid song. Stupid song from the stupid show has been stuck in my head for like, I don't know how long at this point. And I hate it. I hate that every time I see it, I think, woo, 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 woo. And if you've never seen this show, honestly, it's a good show. Every season of the show has been good so far, but it's not, this card is not doing that to you. These White Lotus cards aren't doing that to your brain every single time that you see them. And that's a good trade-off for never having seen a show that people like. Honestly, it's killing me. It's drilling into my brain every time. Why does it say the White Lotus? Why does it say that? Why is it literally a hotel room? Why are you doing this? This is a land that taps for a colorless mana. Now it's stuck in my head. Yeah, sorry. I'm really sorry. It's just, if I have to carry this curse, you will too. It's a land that comes into play on taps for colorless. Or you can tap it for a mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a lesson or a shrine spell. Okay. You can also pay 1 and tap it and add a mana of any color. So fixes your mana no matter what if you have extra mana laying around. But the big attraction here is that it goes in every Shrine Commander deck, and Go Shintai is already a really popular commander. Like, at least according to EDA track. People be building Shrine decks, son. And so this pops into those. It pops into those Hey Bye decks because we just got another 5-color Shrine Commander in this set. It's Hey Bye. So this goes in all of those. But also lessons. Also casting lessons. So if you want to build a lesson deck, have at it. I don't know how relevant it's going to be, but this is an extremely narrow land that nonetheless will show up in decks from time to time. Will I be building a lesson deck? I have to see more payoffs. I have to see like 2 more payoffs, you know, that are good. Super good show for reals, though. It really is. Very good show. I recommend it, but the song's going to happen to you, and then it's going to be with you until you die. And then maybe even shortly after, you know. Let's look next at Fire Nation Cadets as we round the corner on just the cards today. I think there are a total of 20 cards so far. I will recheck Mythic Spoiler before we get out of here. And Fire Nation Cadets is one that I don't think is very good. I'm going to throw that out. We've looked at a bunch of really good cards in these last like maybe 4 to 6 cards. And I don't think Fire Nation Cadets is one of them, but I also think there could be something to this, right? Just a single red mana for a 1/2 human soldier. This creature has Firebending 2 as long as there's a lesson card in your graveyard. You can pay 2 and have this creature get +1/+0 until end of turn. So you just have to pitch a lesson card or cast 1 on turn 2. And suddenly, you know, you can get in for at least 2 damage. Or you can get into combat and cast a Lightning Strike, right? And that's not so bad either. So I don't think this will be the premier 1-drop in Standard anytime soon. I think that, you know, Burnout Bastronaut is still very good. And there's a number of other options too. This isn't going to replace like Swift Spear, you know what I mean? Which did rotate out, but it's not going to replace like the best 1-drops. The Lizard, right? The Lizard is probably still the best red 1-drop. But I don't know. I at least want to mess around with this. I think a 1-drop with Firebending 2 is a really tempting proposition, to say the least. So I don't know. Again, the more I look at it, the more I'm like, there's something to you. There is something to you, but I don't know if there's enough, right? But a 1-mana guy that essentially creates 2 mana on turn 2, like 2 extra turn 2 mana. Yeah, I think that could be very slick. Incredibly. Why do I want him to have prowess? Because you just want him to be Swift Spear. The same. I'm done the same way, you know? Yeah, Firebending and prowess would be crazy. Like very, very good. You know, if you got in and did cast a Lightning Strike or whatever, then suddenly you'd also be able to do like 2 combat damage on turn 2 and take out their 1 or 2 drop. And that would be you'd be ahead. I'll say that much. You'd be way ahead. But yeah, I really wanted to shine a special spotlight on this card. I don't think it's great, but it's a 1-drop that creates 2 mana. Turn over turn. Sometimes this 1-drop can effectively generate 3 mana for you. If it gets in twice. So, I don't know. Maybe. But next is Foggy Swamp Spirit Keeper. Every time I see one of these Foggy Swamp cards, I want to say it like that. I do. It like at the same time, it reminds me of both Fleetwood Mac and like Crazy Uncle Jimbo lives in the swamp. And but the swamp takes what it calls its own. You guys see this Pokemon in the art? You see this little Pokemon that she's holding? This little thing from like a cozy farming game on Steam where you play as a witch. Do you see this? This is 3 mana. For Foggy Swamp Spirit Keepers, 3 mana, 1 a blue and a black for a 2/4 human druid ally with lifelink. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token with this token can't block or be blocked by non-spirit creatures. So one of those tokens. It has a spirit shadow. We've been calling it around here the last couple of days. I don't think that these tokens are great. There, I said it. They're unblockable, and I like that about them. I respect the clock that they typically will represent. That's good. But I also, if I have a thing that makes a bunch of tokens, I kind of want to be able to block with the tokens. Like, it's kind of one of the main attractions of a card like that. But I still think this is pretty slick. You know, how much I love, you know, Mischievous Mystic and stuff like that. You know, any of these, get a guy whenever you draw your second card each turn. There's a few of them now in Standard. And I like all of them, but I think this is more of a signposty limited uncommon that I nonetheless will try to play games with. If I could praise it a little bit here before we move on, I will say that a 3 mana 2/4 is a good stat line. This doesn't die to a number of things, you know, Torch the Tower, a Dry Tragic Trajectory, or Stab. Doesn't die to Nowhere to Run. Doesn't die to Virtue of Persistence. Did I say Lightning Strike? Any bolt effects, you know. Doesn't die to a Burst Lightning unless it's fully kicked. So I think that a 3 mana 4 toughness stat line is a pretty good place to be right now. We see that on like Preacher of the Schism. It's a good card. And she has lifelink. So a 3 mana 2/4 lifelink against your average aggro deck is probably okay. It's probably all right. So, you know, I kind of like it. I kind of want to like this card an awful lot. But I'm a sucker for tokens. I really am. But if I was going to rate this, I'd give it like a solid 5.2 or something. You know, I love stuff like this, like way too much. Next is Momo, Playful Pet. There's Momo. We're supposed to be looking for Momo in the art. Found him. A single white mana for a 1/1 legendary Lemur Bat ally. He's a bat. Got another 1-drop bat, ladies and gentlemen. This is a 1/1 with flying and vigilance, and when it leaves the battlefield, choose 1. Create a food token, or put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control, or scry 2. So, does it go in the Pixie decks? I'm going to ask chat. I haven't asked chat a single thing except for, you know, attention, I guess. Give me attention all night. But I will ask chat, do you think that this goes in Pixie decks, even as just a 1-of? I wanna know. Do you like Momo? But no. Or is the deck list too tight? I wanna know. The song is fire. How come no one ever plays that song anymore? And then there's like a little key change. I wanna know. So, man, we knew what we were doing. There's a point in the 90s where people were like, hey, let's make some good music, and like people actually did it. It's crazy. We don't do that anymore. I think I may have given people some time. Momo. Yes, we got a nah. All right. I think so, maybe, but then I haven't played Pixie. It's fair enough. Plays well with Pixie. Don't the other variations bounce on cast? Yeah. Like, I think that just on turn 2, you know, like you play Momo on 1, you get in with it, flying, vigilant. And then on turn 2, you play your Pixie. And you can make your Pixie a 3/3. A 3/3 flyer on turn 2. It's probably good enough. Probably all right. There might be setups where you want the food token because it's an artifact. And then Scry 2. The thing I like about Scry 2 being a mode, and Food Token for that matter, is that like you don't have to have anything else to do it. You know, like if they just kill your Momo or something, like you get a Food Token, you get Scry 2. If they exile Momo, you get a Food Token or Scry or whatever. You don't have to have nothing else around to enable it. I kind of like it. I think in bats, there's a possibility this is playable as a 1-drop, maybe even again just as a 1-of. I could maybe see it, but bats isn't super relevant. Pixie, on the other hand, I think probably does throw 1 copy of this card in. No more, no less. But I think you want 1 copy of Momo in your deck, especially considering it's another flying vigilant creature. A cool thing, too, about Momo is that like it's not necessarily legendary proof, right? But if you play a Momo on 1 and then you play a Momo on 2, well, then you just put a +1/+1 counter on the first Momo and swing in for 2 flying vigilance. Due to the legend rule, right? Momo will leave the battlefield. So triggers. So I don't know. I kind of like that about it too. I don't think this card is amazing, but I think as far as like role players go, I think it's all right. You want to blink this for sure? Yeah, maybe. Like my worry is that you'll have a better blink target than this starting like turn 2 or 3. But if you don't have any other blink targets, or if you're blinking like more than one thing at a time, you know, like one of those things that just allows you to blink all your guys, then yeah, Momo's like, yeah, you want that in your deck. It's pretty good. So yeah, just I think it's a pretty solid Magic card, man. It's like City Pigeon, you know, but like better. It just does more. So card seems too mid. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like even for 1 mana, does it not do enough? You know, really aggressive rate on this. I love both flying and vigilance on this, you know, 1-drop. Again, it's almost aggressive, but is it aggressive enough? Does it do enough? Which is crazy because in like 2015, this card would have been like a massive standard role player. I don't know if it's up to the challenge anymore, but I do still think it's a good card. At the end of the day, I still think this is a good Magic card. But we'll move on to, I believe, the actual last card of the day, even though I do have more slides. We're gonna see my whole trip to Hawaii. I've never been to Hawaii, but we got Zuko conflicted here. A black and a red, 2 total mana for a 2/3 legendary human rogue at the beginning of your first main phase. Choose one that has not been chosen, and you lose 2 life. Either draw a card, or put a +1/+1 counter on Zooks, or add a single red mana, or finally, for sure, exile Zuko and return him to the battlefield under an opponent's control. That is really neat. So you effectively have 3 full turns of attacking with this guy to deal damage to them and to draw cards off of it and blah, blah. Make mana. Even I think the mana making mode starting as early as turn 3 is phenomenal. And then when you give them to your opponent, they start taking 2 a turn. You know, they get to choose modes and all that, but they still lose 2 life a turn. And sure, we had to do that for a little while. But at the point in the game where we give our opponent Zuko, I'm hoping that they're at a low enough life total that the 2 life will kill them before too long. You know, like maybe they draw a card or something like that. But in the meantime, the between time, if they have the Zuko on the table for 3 turns, they have taken 6 in the later stages of the game. And I think that could be really good. This could go well in like a black-red kind of Cecil pile of some kind. Because, you know, Cecil wants you to lose life. There's a couple of other cards in mono black that want you to lose life, and this does that very well. Also, Rowan. This goes really well with, I believe it's Rowan, the one that, like, can tap for the amount of mana, in terms, like, it taps for mana equal to how much life you've lost that turn, or something like that. And it has to be on your turn. Something along those lines. I think this card's really very good with that card, too, so I don't know. If nothing else, I think that playing a 2-drop and then the next turn you have 4 mana on turn 3 and you can still attack. Like it's not like just a mana dork. Like you can still attack that next turn and have 4 mana. I think it's really good. I think that is really, really useful. This is our other rare of the day. And this one I think is really noteworthy. Probably pretty good in like, let's say Alesha, right? The 3 mana Alesha that allows you to reanimate creatures every turn. Same thing is true of the Carnage from the Spider-Man set, the one that allows you to reanimate a 3-drop or under when it comes into play. Both of those I think are good with this. You can devise a way of sacrificing it, right? After you've drawn the card, after you've made the mana, you just don't want to give it to your opponent, whatever. You sacrifice it. And then like, you know, you can bring it back with either one of those 2 guys very easily. And I think once you bring it back, you know, drawing more cards off of it is really good. So, Again, maybe some sort of black-red sack thing, which is, a pretty common color combination for sacking stuff. I think this could actually be really good and, like, again, aggressive in these Rakdos piles. So I don't know what exactly I expect from this. Yeah, spells you cast cost X less to cast, X being the amount of life you've lost this turn. That's what Rowan does. Okay. So you see where I'm going with it. You see where I'm going with that. Not sure if it makes Rowan playable, but I do think in like really aggressive piles, this could be something. You could argue that there may be better 2-drops, more aggressive 2-drops. But altogether, this is a 2-mana 3/4. This is a 2-mana 3/4 that draws a card and adds a red. That seems close to broken to me. So counter option seems lackluster. No, I don't know. I think the counter option's pretty good. I think that if you're trying to get in like a bunch of damage, there's a kind of risk reward on this where, okay, my deck's really aggressive. I want to get in damage as quickly as possible. That incentivizes me to put the +1/+1 counter on first. Like I play Zuko on 2, first main phase of turn 3, counter, swing, because that's, overstated creature for what you paid for it. But then you might not get the card, But I think if you make it all the way around to your first, main phase after you play the card and Zuko's still alive, well, then at that point you can probably do any of these modes and it's fine. So I don't know. I think that this is pretty good. 2 life seems steep. I don't know. The problem with the 2 life is that in this format right now, our lands deal a lot of damage to us. We don't have pain lands anymore. We have multiversal passage. We have starting town. We have shock lands. So if you are trying to play like a Cecil deck that has a lot of these you lose some life effects, then your lands might catch up with you like pretty quickly. If I have to go like starting town Zuko, that's a pretty low life total. So I could see that being a good point, but ultimately, how do I put this? Ultimately, anytime somebody says, ooh, some life that seems steep, it doesn't work out that way. Like people didn't like fetch lands at first because it cost life. People didn't like shock lands at first because it cost 2 life. People didn't like pain lands because they cost life. Like people didn't understand why you would do that. And these are like the best lands, These are the best lands. Phyrexian Arena, that does damage to you every turn. It's one of the best black commander cards, like period. So a little bit of damage here and there, great power at any cost and all that stuff. And, if you look at the drawn card as like a Phyrexian Arena activation, you know what I mean? Like a 2-mana Phyrexian Arena that works precisely 1 time. Pretty good, or like a Dark Confidant that can draw an 8-drop and not deal all that damage to you. If you look at this as a Dark Confidant 1 time, that's pretty exciting. Like when you really think about it, that's not bad, So I like Zooks. I've spent a lot of time talking about it, but this deck will have to find a home. That said, yeah, we have the last ride in standard, right? But that said, I think eventually it will find a home. I think the card is pretty powerful, pretty freaking powerful. But we'll move on to a correction from yesterday and then another one. Diligent Zookeeper. You remember this from yesterday? This is different art. But this 4-mana 4/4 says that each non-human creature you control gets +1/+1 for each of its creature types to a maximum of 10. And my dumb butt yesterday was like, well, changelings, they get the full 10. No, they don't. They're humans. I'm glad I gave y'all something to point out in the comments section. Because literally half the comment section, most of the engagement on that video is like, hey, changelings are humans. So yeah, you guys bested me on that one. You guys are absolutely smack dab 100% right on that. So good call. You got me. But also wanted to issue a correction on Toph. Both because I've been saying her name wrong the whole time. Apparently I've been saying Toph. That's how I feel like you would pronounce this grouping of letters. Apparently it's Toph. And people are so mad. So I'm so sorry. I will not do it again. But also, I got this card wrong because there was a few cards before it that cared about the amount of colors of mana spent to cast a card. And I think I got my lines crossed and thought they were doing that with this card too. This says when it enters Earthbend X, X being the amount of mana spent to cast her. So it doesn't care about what colors you use to cast her. You spend 4 mana to cast her. And so you Earthbend 4. But if she's your commander, then you might pay 6 mana to cast her because of commander tags. And then you get Earthbend 6, then 8, then 10. This is right. So this kind of rewards you a tiny amount for recasting it out of the command zone multiple times in a game, which I did not necessarily catch the first time we looked at the card. Not necessarily a correction, but I have felt pretty terrible about it saying Toph over and over, or Toph over and over. So gotta say the card's name right. But let's reload on Mythic Spoiler and see if there's anything new for the day. I feel like there won't be. Nope, none of this is new. Not a single one of these cards is new, Ski Lewiski. So then what you do is you go to mtgpreviews.com, because sometimes, every now and again, they get cards that Mythic Spoiler doesn't get. Spoiler gets cards that they don't get. Yep, this is all the same stuff. This is all the same stuff. All right, so that is every card from today, Thursday. Now, it appears as though tomorrow, happy Halloween tomorrow, by the way, everybody. It appears as though tomorrow a lot of people have planned previews for the day. So make sure you check us out on the channel. That is SBMTG or strictly Better Mtg. But all you got to do is put in 5 letters. If you're watching here on Twitch and you don't know my channel somehow, all 2.5 of you maybe, then that's how you get to my YouTube presence. And I feel like I have more, like I hold more frame on YouTube, all things considered. I have more of a presence there. Anyway, y'all. If you're watching on YouTube right now, which I imagine the vast majority of you are doing that, then make sure you like the video and hype it. I don't even know what that does, but it's a new thing you can do. Give it a shot. Report back to me. Not really sure. You can also subscribe. That's the other thing. I was like, what other things do they do on YouTube? You subscribe. If you haven't done that yet, we're trying to get to 150K. We can. One of these days, we'll get there. And that's going to be in large part thanks to viewers like you. Finally, I have a Patreon. It's $1 a month for power. I offer you raw, unadulterated power. Who else has done that? McDonald's ain't offering you no power. They're offering you the opposite of power. So often, you give your power to corporations when you give them your money. You vote with your wallet, and I am here to give you power. Actual power that no politician can dole out. You will vote, though. You will vote on content on the channel, and that means you get to push me around. Well, I will. Well, I will. This is the best Patreon pitch ever. Anyway, you get to tell me what to do, basically. You know, the whole reason that we just did these like pauper EDH videos and stuff is because the patrons wanted those videos. So again, if you want power, no one else in this economy offers you power, and you have so little of it. All I ask is $1, and I will give you power. Anyway, the Patreon is in the description. Check it out. Anyway, if you're watching on YouTube, that's all I got for this one. If you're watching on Twitch, hang out for a couple of minutes. We're going to maybe do some wrestling predictions or something. How we get this bad boy online. But anyway, y'all, I am Dev from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.